In the previous episode, we finally found the obscure marker indicating the very spot where Meriwether Lewis departed down the Ohio to meet up with Clark. Today, we continue the journey west, following their fascinating adventure. I'm riding in my RV, wherever I want to be. 'Cause I'm free in my RV, yeah. Well, let's get the car and follow the Ohio River west, shall we? It was $5 to park here. I'd say that's reasonable for big city downtown parking. Let's stop here real quick, if only for the photo opportunity. Here's the bottom station of the Duquesne Incline. Next time we come, we're definitely doing that. And here's also a pretty nice view of downtown. Oh yeah, when you have a Travado. Yep, when you have a Travado, you get to park at places like this. And with that view of the fountain at Point Park, we're saying goodbye to Pittsburgh. For now. Down the Ohio we go. The expedition's first stop was 3 miles down the river at this island coming up here on the right, where he gave the local pioneers a demonstration of his pneumatic rifle. But the air gun went off unexpectedly and almost killed a woman, although she miraculously survived. Lesson learned that day: never pass around the air gun again while it is pumped and loaded. There's supposed to be, or was supposed to be, an Indian mound somewhere around here. The largest burial mound in western Pennsylvania, actually. I think this is it. It is a very industrial area, and the only sign I could find was this. The mound, by the way, no longer exists. It is said to have been destroyed when they quarried the rock in order to pave the neighborhood. Onward we go. This neighborhood is called The Bottoms, and it is part of the McKees Rocks Borough. Let's cross over to the other side and take State Route 65. Here we go, one last view before we say goodbye to Steel City, the city of bridges, the Paris of Appalachia, and I could keep going, but I'm not going to. Even though the road goes right along the river, you can't really see it most of the way, which is kind of disappointing given the nature of our trip here. These houses on the left here, they probably do have a river view. Nice town, by the way. I believe it is called Avalon. Most of the road looks like this, and you get glimpses of the river here and there. I gotta be honest, it is not very scenic, which is unexpected and a little disappointing. To be fair, it is not officially called the Ohio River Scenic Byway until we get to Ohio, so we'll see. Let's get off the highway and stop here in Beaver and see if we can get closer to the river. This cute little downtown is called Beaver. It says it there. Beaver. And here we are. This street creatively named River Road. There it is, the Ohio River. I would say it's beautiful, but it is also so industrial. I mean, I understand the need for industry, but it takes away from what would otherwise be a much more picturesque sight. This fine-looking town is Midland. We are almost at the Ohio border. There it is, Ohio. Let's stop and see all the historical markers. I want to thank Trade Coffee for sponsoring this episode. And you know I'm a coffee drinker. I have to have my Cuban coffee in the morning. So if you're like me, you probably end up drinking the same coffee all the time. Not anymore. Trade Coffee is a personalized coffee subscription service that connects coffee drinkers, us, with independent roasters from all over the country. They have 450 coffees from 55 different craft roasters who use sustainable, ethically sourced beans from farmers from around the world. Each bag is roasted fresh per customer. Whether you like whole beans or ground, or maybe you want fine grind like me for espresso, or you prefer medium or coarse for percolator, French press, Trade Coffee will deliver. They can send you a new coffee every time, or you get to pick your favorite. And you also get to set the amount and the frequency. You can either take a quiz, or now you can also choose from their curated collections. So let's see what we've got this time. Sparrow's Coffee here. If I read my map correctly, that's from Michigan, from the Lower Peninsula. And here we have the Rocketeer Atomic Coffee Roasters from Honduras, Guatemala. I'm in a Michigan kind of mood, so let's make some. Yeah, I like to use my mocha pot. I'm not even gonna put sugar on it so I can get a real taste. Oh man, get what you want, when you want, and with Trade, it is easier than ever. Right now, Trade is offering new subscribers a total of $30 off your first order, plus free shipping when you go to drinktrade.com/TravelingRobert. That's my name. That's more than 40 cups of coffee for free. Get started at drinktrade.com/TravelingRobert and let Trade find you a coffee that you will love. That's once again, drinktrade.com/TravelingRobert for $30 off. Cheers. All right, this is called the Point of Beginning, and I had no idea I was gonna find the Lewis and Clark marker here. So I'll keep my eyes peeled in this whole area because they may be more. And this is where they were on September 4th. And yeah, the river was very shallow that time of the year. And yeah, he said that he could see a great number of fish of different kinds, sturgeon, bass, catfish, pike, etc. So, by the way, this is also the dividing line between Ohio. And here's the marker. And you can see the crease on the road there between Ohio and Pennsylvania, and West Virginia is on the other side of the river, so we cannot get to the river right here. Some kind of factory. But what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna try to fly the drone real quick and see if we can get a view. Somewhere down there by the river would have been the location of the original 1785 marker. Long gone. On the other side of the river, West Virginia. So here we have all three states in sight. let's go into West Virginia, where they have the world's largest teapot, Chester, West Virginia.
Well, what do you know? It is the world's largest teapot.
Yes, it is one of those roadside attractions. What can I say?
I guess they used to sell souvenirs out of it. Chester, West Virginia.
I'm so close to Tomlinson Run State Park now, where I'm staying, coincidentally, that I'm going to take a break, get something to eat, and then we'll continue towards Steubenville. Yep, that was quick. I know why they call it the Rust Belt. I haven't seen one piece of metal that is not at least partially rusted out. And I'm not talking about abandoned industry like Wikipedia says. I'm talking about bridges and industrial facilities being in use. I wonder if there is a paint shortage. Here we are, Steubenville, Ohio. Let's stop and see if Fort Steuben is still open.
Well, here we are in Steubenville, and who knew? Dean Martin was born here. They even have a star. Alright, let's check out the fort. I believe the fort is closed. They closed the fort, the visitor center. But anyway, when Lewis and Clark stopped here to buy some oxen, I think, there was no fort. All the same, tomorrow I have to pass by here. So if it is open, we'll go back there and see the fort. Yeah, it would have been really cool, but I arrived too late. Spent too much time at the museum in Pittsburgh, and then spent too much time trying to follow the river, which is not something I'm gonna be able to do now for the rest of the trip. If I have to be in Cincinnati the day after tomorrow, we gotta put some miles behind us. So basically just gonna see the important points of interest along the way. Okay, I know where I was wrong. The fort does date back to 1787, but by the time Clark wasn't here yet. By the time Meriwether Lewis got here in 1803, it had already disappeared. As it said, by 1790 the remains of the fort had disappeared. So it has been reconstructed on its original location. So this would be the original location of the fort. And but that's why there's no mention of the fort in the Lewis and Clark diary, because there wasn't a fort at the time.
It was slow going for the Meriwether Lewis expedition in the shallow waters of the Ohio. He wrote in his journal about Steubenville, a small, well-built, thriving place. Has several respectable families residing in it, 5 years since it was a wilderness. He bought some oxen and continued downstream towards Wheeling. As I said, we might be back tomorrow. There might even be a reference in there about Lewis and Clark. Or only Lewis, rather. I mean, this parking lot is obviously not RV friendly, but I think across the street, if I can find, 2 adjacent parking spaces, we should be okay. All right, let's get going. Is it me, or does that smokestack look like a giant cigarette spewing that thick? I guess it would be water vapor, right? So more like a vape, I guess. Our next stop, or drive-by rather, I don't think I'm gonna stop, is Wheeling, West Virginia, part of Virginia back in 1803, on September 7th, when Meriwether Lewis arrived here. He wrote in his journal, "A pretty considerable village of 50 houses." Here he picked up the shipment of rifles and ammunition he had sent overland from Pittsburgh, but a pirogue to carry it down the river, and dined that evening with Dr. William Patterson, who had been one of Lewis's teachers and had the largest collection of medicines west of the mountains. He expressed a great desire to join the expedition. The good doctor, who had a reputation of constant drunkenness, stood him up. He never showed up, thus missing the opportunity to join the great expedition. Wheeling, nowadays, a pretty substantial metropolitan area of 125,000 inhabitants. For a while, in 1863, it was actually the capital of both West Virginia and Virginia.
Man, they need to do something about these potholes here, all the streets in Wheeling, Virginia, West Virginia. At the time of Lewis and Clark, it was Virginia, but now it's West Virginia. And I have no idea where to go. I tried to find the house of Patterson, which was the doctor that Meriwether visited here, but
the truth is, it's been a long day, and I'm kind of tired. I'm neither hungry nor thirsty, so I'm gonna go back to the campground, and tomorrow the adventure continues. How about that? The weather isn't cooperating either. It's being gloomy and overcast, and that kind of gets me down. Cool yard art, by the way. All of a sudden, I'm hungry, and you know what's for dinner? Picadillo, Robert style. Chopped some onions, and now we're gonna do a green pepper. And turn the meat so it browns on all sides. Salt and pepper to taste. That's looking so good. And I didn't use any oil. We're going to cook everything with the fat released by the hamburger meat. Gonna add some garlic too. I'm all out of tomato sauce, so I'm going to add a lot of paprika, mainly for color and taste. Some cooking wine. Might as well. Manzanilla olives, and here's where I divert from the classic recipe. I'm adding some green peas and cilantro, because everything tastes better with cilantro. I think this is almost ready. Some people may add capers or raisins, but I'm good for now. I'm gonna make some rice and call it dinner.
Well, good morning. And let me tell you, listen to the birds. I'm kind of sad that I didn't get to fully appreciate this campground, this Tomlinson Run Stays Park. But, I mean, yesterday the day got away from us, right? With Pittsburgh in the morning, and then by the time I got here, it was 6 p.m. And very, very nice and cool here in the morning. And this is a huge site. And the good thing is, I mean, there's nobody here, which is unusual, to say the least. But yeah, very nice, huge site. Now I know it's here, Site 16. Don't tell anybody. But not exactly level, but it's alright. It's not too bad. Only electric, and with all the, the hyperbole about all the campgrounds being full in the country. I mean, maybe it's Friday. This will fill up, but right now there's, I mean, a lot of campgrounds are full around the country. But once in a while, you encounter a place like this, and it is beautiful. It's I would love to explore that ravine going down there, but all right, let's continue.
We're going back to Steubenville to see if we can visit Fort Steuben this time. Even though it is not directly related to our Lewis and Clark trip, I do believe they have an exhibit inside. This time, the only challenge is going to be finding parking with the trailer in tow. There's a suitable spot right here across the street from the fort, but it says only 30 minutes. There's gotta be something else. Here we go. This whole block says 2 hours. I think we found our spot. And here we are like only 2 blocks away. Not bad.
There you go. Not bad, huh? Of course, this town would have looked much different, right? At the time Meriwether Lewis and his crew landed here. There we go. Old Fort Steuben. Yesterday I didn't realize the fountain is in the shape of a fort. There you go. It's official now.
Fort Steuben was built in 1787 by the 1st American Regiment to protect the Northwest Territories government surveyors, but later became Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Actually, here's a map of the Northwest Territory and the marker we saw yesterday. The fort was destroyed by fire in 1790 and was never rebuilt since it had already served its purpose and surveyors had moved on. By 1797, the city of Steubenville was founded on this site, so by the time Meriwether Lewis arrived here, it was, as he put it, a small, well-built, thriving place. That would be Sacagawea. We'll be hearing a lot about her once we get to North Dakota.
Yeah, we left from Pittsburgh and now we are somewhere around here. We have a long way to go.
And here's one of the best illustrations I've seen so far about how they made the trip.
And here we are. Here we are, and as I was saying yesterday, by the time Lewis and Clark got here, this fort was no longer here. The fort only lasted 3 years. So all this is obviously a reconstruction, but let's check it out. And there's a tour in progress right now in the officer's quarter, it's a school bus. So I think we're gonna go counterclockwise here. Start with the commissary.
This is where all the food items were stored. Barrels full of flour, beef, whiskey, salt, and bacon. Sometimes they would have to hunt or fish when supplies didn't arrive.
And next we have the restroom. We used to call them the latrines. Oh, look at these 2 big bugs. Oh my gosh. They're actually modern bathrooms.
Oh, the hospital. Apparently, at the time, you had a better chance of dying in hospital than in battle. There was no washing or sterilization, so the soldiers would often die from infected wounds and other diseases. Our knowledge of medicine was very primitive back then. This is what a frontiersman camp would have looked like when they were out there in the wilderness. The tools they would have to use.
Yeah, that's what what a pioneer camp would have looked like. And let me tell you, now compared to the wax figures we saw yesterday at the museum in Pittsburgh, these look rather crude. Oh, look at that, stocks. There was punishment. It doesn't say much, but this was the guardhouse and Sallyport.
Let's go up to the guardhouse. Oh, huge bugs. And the guard would have a commanding view of the river. Let's check out the enlisted man quarters. It was kind of a hard life, let me tell you, and tight quarters. This blockhouse would hold about 28 men, and 2 men would sleep in each bunk. Hard to imagine that lack of privacy these days. They did do their own washing and cooking. Here's the artificer, or blacksmith shop. Here in the middle there's an archaeology dig, and I spoke to one of the archaeologists, and he told me about some of the artifacts they keep finding even to this day. All that remains of the original fort.
Let's see the quartermaster.
The quartermaster was in charge of supplies, which, by the way, weren't many. In fact, apparently it would have looked a lot emptier than this at the time.
Well, they just rang the big bell out there. Anyway, I was speaking to the historian in there, and they're doing some archaeological digging there, and they found some stuff from when this was a fort. And he told me that to keep my eyes peeled out west, because there are some sites that they are still excavating along the Lewis and Clark route, and they have found some artifacts. So, all right, let's see the officers' quarters here real quick. Not bad at all.
This room was Major Hamtramck's quarters, who built the fort, and his collapsible bed which would be transported when he traveled. Let's go see something else here on the grounds, and this would have been the first federal land office west of the Allegheny Mountains. This is where the federal government would have sold public lands to early settlers after the Harrison Land Act of 1800.
Built in 1801.
The reconstructed building is made from the original logs from 1801. Inside, it houses furnishings and items that would have been found in frontier settlements in the early 19th century.
Trunk from 1798.
Very interesting to see how things were just over 200 years ago. Lots of progress would come just a few decades later. The railroad, photography, telegraph. And this is the courthouse bell from 1873. We heard it earlier.
I'm so glad I decided to come by Fort Steuben after all. If anything, for that photo, they have a picture there displayed that is like the most detailed picture that I've seen depicting the keel boat and all that. Federal Land Office, yeah. And I mean, now I'm gonna definitely skip Wheeling. We'll try to see the Indian Mounds, the Marietta, and then we'll go to we're staying at a KOA with full hookups just so I can do laundry and get everything cleaned up before going to Cincinnati. All right, perfect. This is the pizzeria that they recommended.
Too bad it's too early for pizza. I'm not really hungry yet.
The tin is still there.
Off we go. Next, we're gonna stop at an earth mound that Lewis described in great detail in his journal. It is nowadays called Grave Creek Mound, in the aptly named city of Moundsville. Deja vu? No, there's no glitch in the Matrix. We actually drove through here yesterday. Although, let me tell you, after a while, all these plants and industrial facilities start to look similar. And on that note, are we ever going to see sunshine again? It feels like it's been overcast now for way too long. I'm a sunshine and blue sky kind of guy. Let's cross over once again to the West Virginia side. Here it is on the left. We're going to park right here across the street from the historic West Virginia Penitentiary. Here's the historical marker with information about the mound, which apparently predated Christianity. Let's step inside the museum, and maybe we can climb all the way to the top. Here we go, here's our Lewis and Clark reference, and here's a huge model depicting what it would have looked like in its heyday. Very good museum about the history of this particular area, the ancient history. Now let's go up to the mound.
Alright, let's go up the mound.
I think this is pretty much the last thing we're going to do today. Of course, they decide to mow the mound today. My luck.
Here we are. We've made it to the top.
Here's the view from the top of the mound. The historic penitentiary? Quite the imposing building. We must make a point to visit it sometime. Someday, when we return to this area. I'm definitely marking it on my map.
I'm sure the Indians would have some kind of machine to cut the excess plant life, right? Alright, this was cool, a cool other break here. And now I don't think we have any other stops until the campground. Yes, we are going to pass by, hopefully by Marietta, which is it's Ohio's oldest settlement, I believe, according to what I've read. But we're probably not going to stop.
Yep, time's up. You can't do everything, and I do have a hard date when I have to arrive in the Cincinnati area.
Driving to the west, into the sunset, driving to the west. Driving to the west, into the sunset, driving to the west. Driving to the west, into the sunset, driving to the west. Driving to the west, into the sunset, driving to the west. Driving to the west. Driving to the west, into the sunset, driving to the west.
On the next one, we join our friend Greg of the Casita RV Live YouTube channel. We'll visit a brewery. We'll explore Jungle Gems International Market. We'll visit the Ark. And I promise you, it will not be uneventful. There will of course be a Cincinnati meetup, and we'll explore downtown during the Taste of Cincinnati event. We'll also see mastodon bones as we approach the very spot where Lewis met up with Clark. But more about that on the next episode. Until then, thank you so much for watching, and see you on the road.
I'm riding in my